Welcome to the Matt Phillips Podcast. I am Matt Phillips, your sales leadership coach, mental toughness expert, and founder of Matt Phillips Coaching. We help sales managers and leaders make more money, save time, and become kick-ass leaders of their sales teams. And that's what we're here to talk about on this podcast. We are here to give you the tools and tactics to build a well-oiled sales machine and teach you the mental toughness skills so you can show up confident, focused, emotionally in control, and ready to energize your team. It's time to talk sales leadership and mental toughness. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to today's episode. It is Matt, excited to be with you as always. And today we're here to talk about taking out the trash. Now, here's the reality. We all have head trash, right? Those thoughts and beliefs that are rolling around our heads that if we're not careful can truly derail us. They can hold us back from getting where we want to go. And maybe you're in a sales role and trying to make that next sale, right? If we're not careful, that head trash can hold us back from achieving that. Maybe we're leading a sales team. Maybe we're leading a different function within our organization. We have to be careful of what's going on in our head. And the quicker that we start understanding how to analyze that and see it for what it is and challenge these thoughts and beliefs, the quicker we're going to be able to achieve those goals that we all set for ourselves. And this topic, I knew I had to talk about it on this podcast because about a week ago, I had a one-on-one coaching call with one of the chief revenue officers that I work with. And I actually started our call just sharing something that I was thinking and something I was going through. And it's funny sometimes when you have calls with different people, right? Or maybe you're working with colleagues or your team or family members, and you just share something that just hits home with them, right? It resonates at such a deep level. And this was one of those things. And after it resonated with her, I'm like, I have to share this on the podcast. That's what we're talking about, this whole head trash concept. And this call was on a Monday with this CRO. And I had just come off vacation. So we spent the week before in Florida on the beach. I mean, I got all nice and tan. If you're watching this on video, you can see that I still have a little tan line on my nose. I wear my sunglasses way too long when I was out in the sun. But nonetheless, we had a great vacation with the family and kids had a blast. And the place was amazing with a pool and the beach about 5 minutes away by golf cart. I mean, life doesn't get much better than driving a golf cart to the beach where you have chairs already set up and umbrellas for you. I mean, it's pretty incredible. We're very, very blessed and fortunate to have done that. But we get back and I'll share the story with you just like I shared with her. I woke up on Monday and I was stuck in vacation mode. You ever been there? Yeah, where you come off vacation, you're just like, seriously, I gotta work again. I gotta like ramp back up and open emails and do all that stuff. And as a business owner, I'm kind of always working, right? But I really, really minimize it when I'm on vacation. But I had that same thought on Monday morning of, oh my gosh, I don't feel like doing this today. And there were a couple things that I had to do. One is I immediately sat down and in my momentum journal, one of the tools that we give out to all of our coaching clients, and you can see on video, I'll hold it up here real quick. But this momentum journal I pulled out and I went and reviewed the answer to the question that I asked myself and that I wrote out of why am I doing this? And that was one huge step of me reconnecting with, again, the purpose. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why am I getting up on a Monday morning early to go start this? And I'm very clear on why I do what I do, right? And those are on different podcasts that you can go back and listen to and we'll link to. But I read through that and I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to ramp back up again. But the more interesting thing was, for some reason on Monday morning, I had all these negative thoughts and beliefs rolling around in my head. And I didn't know why. And these questions that were rolling around in my head were kind of like the imposter syndrome a little bit, right? Of, we're putting out these new free guides and stuff like that. And, I'm thinking to myself, well, no one's going to want to sign up for these, or, we got this podcast and hopefully people want to subscribe. And it was just really interesting for me. So I immediately got out my coaching journal. I've got another journal that I use here, and I should label it a coaching journal. A little kind of nerd alert a little bit, right? But I immediately got that out and I'm like, I have to deal with this head trash going on right now. And so we've got a cool little nook over in our house that has a fireplace and real nice chair. And so I sat down and I just started reflecting on like, what is going on in my head right now? What is the thought I'm having? What is the belief that is showing up right now? And then I wrote it down, and then I immediately shifted it to the opposite of that, right? To what the truth was showing. And I started thinking through and journaling, like, why am I having this now of all times? And it was fascinating for me because, we preach mental toughness, right? And to be a great leader, you have to have that strong mindset, right? Be confident, focused, emotionally in control. You have to have the energy you need and take that intentional, consistent action. And so we preach that and we do that, but it's still fascinating. Even one of our modules is diving into this exact topic of like, what's the thought, what's the belief, and let's crush it. Let's work through it. And yet the truth is that you never know what's going to cause you to have that thought, for that head trash to show up again. I don't believe that we can get rid of it entirely, but I certainly believe that we can react more quickly to when that thing crops up again, right? As we rewrite those beliefs. And so on a Monday morning after vacation, these weird thoughts pop in my head, and working through those, writing them out, going through my journal, and really assessing and analyzing, like, why now? Why am I having this thought? Like, what's the truth of, is this thought real or not? Helped me come to the conclusion that what I was thinking was not truthful at all. And in fact, quite the opposite was true. And that I needed to keep focused on those types of things and taking the steps forward in my business. Those two things, reflecting on my why, and then me diving into that head trash floating around, completely got me refocused, re-energized. As soon as I did those two things, I was like, let's go. And about 2 hours later, I had the call with this CRO. So when I showed up to that call, I was firing on all cylinders. I was just excited to be there. As soon as I shared that story with that CRO, she said, oh my gosh, like, I cannot tell you how much that story resonates with me, because I have been floating around in my head is this like imposter syndrome. And these questions of like, why was I hired? And do I have the skills to actually do this thing? Can I pull this off? And there was all these doubts floating around in her head. And we spent the rest of that coaching call dealing with those and talking about it and getting to the truth. Because sometimes as a coach, this is what I love about what I do, right? And you experience this every single day with the people that you manage and maybe kids that you have and people that you mentor, is coaches, we're able to see things differently, right? We don't have necessarily like skin in the game. I mean, I have skin in the game because I care about people, but like, I'm not in it day to day with them. I'm not, making the sales. I'm not in the leadership calls with the team. I'm not doing that stuff. So I have a different perspective. And as soon as this CRO said that, I immediately was like, okay, what is going on in your head is completely false. Now I can see it, but it doesn't matter. She needs to see it, right? Or if I'm working with a male client, like, he needs to see it. It's my job to point out, let's get to the truth of the matter. And so as soon as kind of she said that, like I said, I knew I needed to talk about it on this podcast, because I wonder for you, like, what's floating around in your head? What thoughts, what beliefs about like achieving that success or getting to that next level or leading that team? I wonder what's floating around in your head that really shouldn't be there. And what's the trash that we need to take out to the curb, right? And have the trash team come pick them up and take them away and put them in the dump. What is that head trash for you? Maybe you're sitting there saying like, gosh, no way our sales team can hit their goal, or no way that person is going to be able to actually do that, like sell that or accomplish that or figure that thing out. Or like, I don't even know if my boss trusts me, or I don't know if our client trusts us to deliver. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's something personal as well. But the reality is we all have these doubts and limitations that we put upon ourselves. We have these negative thoughts. And I first want to let you know that it's okay. It's all good. Everybody has it. And know that. And then it becomes the thing of like, how do we want to deal with it? Like, what do we want to do about it? Because I think in a lot of circumstances, we tend to overthink these things and underanalyze these things. meaning we overthink, like, why am I having this thought? And where did it come from? And like, let's go back, 18 years in history and overthink the thing instead of like looking at it as just, what do we need to learn about this? Maybe where is it coming from? But what's the truth? What's the reality of this? I was thinking about a bunch of examples from my life and the clients I work with, just like this CRO, right? That imposter syndrome that was popping up for her, and kind of imposter syndrome that was popping up for me on that Monday morning, as weird as it was. But I was thinking about a couple things. One is I remember back when I played high school baseball, and it's funny now, I can't remember if I've mentioned before, but I work about 4 weeks ago, just recently, I started working with my alma mater's high school baseball team. And it's the varsity team. The coach asked me to come help him a little bit on the mental side. And so I meet with him every Monday and we go through and talk about these different things. And it's so interesting because working with them made me think about when I was a high school baseball player, and I struggled a lot with confidence coming up. And I remember talking about head trash, that I trained myself over time that when I would strike out, there was a thought that immediately came afterwards. And it was kind of around the point of like, good Lord, like, you're the worst baseball player ever. Right. And I think we sometimes do those things, especially when things are not going well, when we, whatever, perceive fail on something, that we have this negativity that comes with it, and we challenge ourselves and we start demeaning ourselves. And I was doing that in high school. Now, my perspective is so much different. Right. And now I get to go share this with these high school athletes and student athletes. But at the time, it wasn't that way. And that's where I would take that thought, and maybe it was like, hey, you suck, or, I think be thinking to myself, Matt, you suck, or good Lord, you're a horrible baseball player. And what I try to do is kind of mask it, and I'd set it to the side. If you're thinking about like looking at something, like I'd put it in my peripheral vision, right? So I was aware of it, but I try not to look directly at it. Over time, I've learned that that was probably the worst thing that I could do. I needed to look at that thought, look at that belief about myself, and challenge it and be like, wait a minute, is that true? Because I struck out in baseball, does that make me a horrible baseball player? Does it make me suck, right? And the reality was, no, it didn't at all. That there was a circumstance that happened that I needed to learn from and make whatever adjustments necessary to go back up and try to get a hit the next time, or learn from that and do the work off the field during practice to prepare myself for that next at bat. It didn't mean I was bad. It didn't mean I was horrible. It didn't mean I was a bad person. It meant that I needed to make an adjustment. That simple. Now, in the moment, it's not necessarily that easy, right? That's why I love, still to this day, I loved having coaches in high school that would kind of set me straight, and in college and overseas professionally, but also today, that's why I still have a coaches, because I call and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this thing went sideways and blah, blah, blah. And they help redirect me to be like, let's get to the facts, let's get to the truth and what action we can take from it. I was thinking about every professional athlete I've worked with too. I think sometimes we put these pro athletes on a pedestal, like they never have a bad day or a bad thought or bad belief about themselves. And that is not true at all, right? They're people, they're human beings just like you and I, and they have the same thoughts, right? Of this negativity that kind of crops up, or imposter syndrome, things like that. And I was even thinking with, one major league pitcher that I worked with for years, you give up that home run in a critical situation, what head trash comes next? Right. And sometimes it's not very nice. All of a sudden you give up another home run instead of making the adjustment. So training ourselves on these areas to, again, remove it, put it in the trash can, let the team come pick it up and take it to the dump. That's what we're trying to do. Every one of us carries this stuff around. And what I want to make sure that you all are doing is stepping through how I coach people through this, right? I coached myself, right? It was me sitting down, recognizing this and being like, I need to deal with this right here and right now. And I could do that by myself through a journal, by writing down, like, what are the facts? What do I know to be true? Why is this getting in my way? Why now of all times? But analyzing and going through this so I can figure out what steps that I need to take next. You can do that same thing. There's some times where I'm so caught up in my head that I need to call one of my coaches. I need to get on a call and say, hey, Jim, I'm dealing with this right now. I don't know why. I don't know. Who knows what's going on right now? But it's understanding I need his perspective to help me through that thing. And he sets me straight super quick. Same thing with my wife. She's in the other room right now. Like, I have certain things that I go talk to my wife about to say, listen, I just need to say this out loud. And I need a different perspective on it. And it's not to make this sound like everything's rosy and things are great and like everything's perfect. I'm like, no, that's not true about you. Sometimes that head trash is, I guess, true, but it's giving you information that you can take action upon. Right? So when I'm recording podcast content like this podcast, I could think to myself, oh my gosh, but who's going to listen to this and why are they going to listen to this? Instead of, I'm going to go record the podcast and put it out there because I know if I'm having this thought, other people are having this thought and I can help them through this. That's the beauty in us overcoming those things holding us back and challenging those thoughts and beliefs. And so for you today, I simply want to encourage you to start becoming aware of what's really going on in your head. Like, what's going on in your head when something goes sideways or when you feel yourself hesitating to do something. There's something behind that. I want you to write that down on a piece of paper. I want you to get out your little coaching journal or your momentum journal, if you happen to have one of those, and write it down. And then I want you to also write down, like, what is the truth of the situation and what action can you take from it? Because I'm telling you right now, the truth usually will guide you towards the perfect action that you need to take. So for me on that Monday morning, it was like, well, we got to start recording podcasts. I got to reach out to these 3 people. And I did that because the truth was I wasn't holding back or anything like that. It was just I needed to reset and take action going forward. I have a good friend of mine who says that action eliminates fear. Well, I think action eliminates self-doubt. Action eliminates negativity. Action eliminates head trash. Because once we just analyze it, look directly at that thing, analyze, find the truth, and figure out what action can I take from this, that's what sets you free. That's what sets you free. My gosh, I could tell you story after story. When I first wrote my book, this is like 10 years ago, when I wrote my first book with Ruben Gonzalez, who was a 4-time Olympian in luge. I cannot tell you the thoughts that were going on my head of like, why would this guy want to write a book with me, right? Even though I'm a pro athlete, why would this Olympian want to write a book with me? And who's going to want to read this book? And why are they going to want to read this thing? And I remember Ruben, after I was going through this and talking to him about it, I mean, I came up with every excuse in the book, and every excuse I came up with was just a fear of my own. It was a fear that I was going to somehow be found out, whatever that means. I hadn't even written a book yet. But I was going to be found out. And Ruben simplified things in such a way, he got me focused on action. And all he did was ask me to write a few articles that became chapters that, when put together, became a book. And we published, after 3 months of me writing my articles, this book. It's called Discovery: How to Become a Champion in Business and Life. And I'm so proud of that because it was the action that got me away from the head trash. It got me away from the fears of publishing a book and trying to figure out who would edit it and have this perfect process. And instead, we now have a book that was like translated, of all languages, it was translated into Polish. I mean, how cool is that? So just on the other side of this head trash are amazing, great things. And I've seen that in my own life. And I know you've seen that in your life. And maybe you're just forgetting it right now. But you know that's true. You know that's true. When you fight through those things that are holding you back, those thoughts, those beliefs, amazing things happen on the other side. Like, great things happen. Or worst case, the issue you thought that was this huge thing, as soon as you take action upon it, it actually wasn't that big in the first place. So I want you to make sure that after this episode today, you have this hyper awareness of what is your head trash. I want you to write it down on a piece of paper, and I want you to get to the truth. What are the facts about the situation, and what action can you take off of that to move past that thing getting in your way? That chief revenue officer, she started writing down some of the wins that she had experienced in the past and in this current role. We started to rewrite and get back to the truth of the matter, that she should be there, that she is highly qualified for that role, that she's already making a massive difference in just a few months being in the role. And I can't imagine what she's going to accomplish a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, because she's the right person for the right job. We just needed to get at that moment through the head trash holding her back. All right, you know what you need to do now. Go take that trash out and continue developing into the leader that you know you can be. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you on the next podcast episode. Thank you for joining us today on the Matt Phillips Podcast. If you are like us, we know that you are here to do great things, to become the sales leader that makes things happen and drives big-time sales results. We know you have that big vision, and we are here to help get you where you want to go. We're here to help you develop that unstoppable, rock-solid leadership skill set and help you train to master the one true differentiator: mental toughness. We would love to be part of your journey. So if you are ready, head over to mattphillipscoaching.com and check out the ways that we can help. As always, please share this episode and make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below. Thank you again. And now, go crush the day.